Hello everybody, this is AK. I'm back. So my last video on whether we should be selling our investments in our local banks, DBS, OCBC and UOB, and to use the money to buy REITs has gotten quite a bit of attention. And some people ask me, right, well, if you like the dividend yield of our local banks so much, is between 5 to 6%, why don't you consider investing in Chinese banks, right, like Bank of China or ICBC? I mean, this is not a new question. I've been asked this question before, and some listeners or viewers might remember a video I made about Alibaba and Tesla, as to which one would I invest in if I really had to pick one, right? And I said both had risk. They have the Chinese stocks, like Alibaba, it has policy risk because it's a centrally run economy and the government can just clamp down hard on them if they wish. They are at the mercy of the government, so to speak. And with Tesla, there's personality risk because Elon Musk is so erratic, egotistical, erratic person. And he's very likely to throw shareholders under the bus just to get his way with Twitter or X, for example. And from what I heard, X is in some deeper financial difficulties and he might have to sell some shares of Tesla again. But anyway, I'm going off track. So what about the Chinese banks? You have 5 to 6% dividend yield for DBS, OCBC and UOB. But the Chinese banks like Bank of China and ICBC, they are offering like 8%, 9% dividend yield, and sometimes even close to 10% dividend yield. Isn't that even more attractive? Well, like I said, policy risk, right? Policy risk in China. And there's also the fact that the dividends will be in renminbi, which I think has weakened against the Sing dollar. And so there's that thing to consider as well. So two types of risk. You have policy risk and you have Forex risk. And this is actually a very good question, right? Why not invest in Chinese banks? Well, apart from those two risks, are there any other risks? I don't know. There could be, right? But to talk about policy risk in the news, in the latest news, it says that the Chinese banking sector could suffer another blow, right? And this is because of the troubled property sector. I mean, this is nothing new, right? We know that the Chinese property sector is in some deep trouble. And Mr. Piyush Gupta from DBS has already said that the problem's very entrenched and it's not going away soon. Maybe 4 years, 5 years before we see improvement, right? And the economy depended so much on the property sector, like the property sector contributed to like 30% of the Chinese economy, right? And there are many homeowners who are, most of them are probably deep in the red and they have trouble paying their mortgages, right? So now the government is considering to let these homeowners switch banks for cheaper loans, and they are going to allow something like 5.4 trillion US dollars of mortgages to be refinanced at lower interest rates. And this is likely to impact the net interest margins for the Chinese banks, right? This is because people are going to refinance and pay a lower interest, right? Lower interest rates on their loans, right? So expect those banks in China with a higher exposure to home loans to be more adversely affected, right? So I talk about Bank of China just now. Apparently, their mortgage loans exposure as a percentage of total loans is about 22.5%. That's pretty high, right? And ICBC is about 22.2%, also pretty high, right? So they are going to see their net interest margins impacted, their net interest income will be impacted, right? So and this could go on for some time, because if the situation doesn't turn around, doesn't improve, then the Chinese government is likely to allow another round of refinancing, until it comes to a point where the homeowners don't feel so financially stressed out, because this has a wider impact, a bigger on the entire economy. When people cannot pay their loans, their home loans, they'll tighten up their belt, and they'll buy fewer things for online, Alibaba or Pinduoduo, whatever, like Temu, I think is the latest one. So this is something that has to be addressed. It's a problem. So it could continue, right? And the Chinese banks have to fasten their seatbelts, shareholders too, right? Then between Bank of China and ICBC, if you really want to invest in one of these banks, which one would you pick, right? Just based on their funding cost alone, apparently it seems like ICBC has a lower funding cost, so they could probably maintain a bigger net interest margin because of that. So you have like BOC's funding cost of like 2.19% versus ICBC's funding cost of 2.04%. In the world of banking, that 0.15% difference is huge, because they're dealing with billions of dollars, and like in this instance, the entire banking sector, we are going to see 5.4 trillion US dollars worth of home loans being refinanced, right? So, but that's just what's in the news. I'm not investing in the Chinese banks. The policy risk is something that puts me off, and the property sector is it's not going to improve anytime soon, and the Chinese banks have a huge exposure to these property sectors, and the government can just tell them to make less money just like that. It's not something that I can deal with and sleep well at night investing in. Okay, so if AK can talk to himself, so can you. Bye-bye.